Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Today I'm writing to If Experience Itself is Dualistic, How to Experience Non-Duality, Advanced Meditation Practice. So, I think the first about 29 minutes of this is the explanation, I do believe, and then the last is the meditation part. So if you want to participate in that, please go to the video. I will just do the first half of it, which is the explanation part. So let's go and get started.
All right. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Sahavidyan Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Good. Welcome to all of you. Welcome also to the many students who attend these programs online. We are continuing with our advanced meditation session. I have a couple of questions to ask of you, but we'll ask that in just a few minutes. I need some feedback. We'll come to that in a few minutes. A lot of people have asked me and have asked in other venues how to experience non-duality. And that sounds like such an absolutely profound question. Swamiji, how can I experience non-duality? As profound as that question sounds, it also reveals a very significant lack of understanding about non-duality and experience.
Makes
because
sense.
Just in very simple terms, if you are the experiencer, and non-duality is something experienced by you, how many things are there? We got at least one experiencer and one experienced non-duality. You get it. I know this is a frequently asked question, and there is no doubt profundity behind it, but you see the very obvious mistake made in taking the very first step. Non-duality is not something out there in the world that you can experience. That makes sense. But people will think, oh, non-duality is something inside that I have to experience. Perhaps that's a better way of putting it, but doesn't the problem still exist? If non-duality is inside you someplace, I'm not sure. I'm being silly just to make a point. If non-duality is inside you someplace, and you are the observer, and the inner non-duality is something observed by you, that's still duality. So let us, since this is such an often asked question, let's examine it in a little bit more detail using the teachings of Advaita Vedanta. Advaita, of course, means non-dual. And after this discussion, then we'll talk about a meditation practice in which we can explore this subject matter. I'm sorry, I can't teach you how to experience non-duality for the reason we just explained. There is no such thing as experience of non-duality. On the other hand, experience is a fact of life. Non-duality is a truth discovered by the ancient rishis, a reality discovered by the ancient rishis. So we can certainly explore this quite a bit. So let's okay. So if let's begin with a presumption, and just pardon me for just 2 minutes of logic, because that question is based on wrong logic. How do you deal with wrong logic? Correct logic. So here's the way we would address it. Also, Advaita Vedanta, Shankaracharya, and all the teachers make extensive use of logic. Why? Because all of us are so careless in our use of logic, they have to correct us again and again, which they do quite well. So here's how it goes. I shouldn't use the word if. Since the ancient rishis discovered non-duality as a reality, now you may not have personally discovered that reality of non-duality, but I think most of you would be willing to give the benefit of the doubt to the ancient rishis and to this tradition which has managed to survive several thousands of years without being torn down by logic, by modern science, by anything. Nothing has been able to assail these teachings. So starting with their discovery, their understanding of the truth of non-duality, and since, based on our opening discussion, non-duality cannot be an object. So if non-duality cannot be an object, remember in my example, I said you are the experiencer and non-duality is the experienced. So we said non-duality cannot be an experienced. Get rid of it. It's a false concept, a false assumption. So non-duality as a concept, non-duality as an independent existence out there someplace or in here someplace, we get rid of that. There is no object called non-duality. But there is the experiencer. And for the experiencer, in grammar, we use the word subject. There's a relationship between object and subject. The subject is the one who knows an object. So we've already dismissed the object. We're left with the subject. The subject is the experiencer, himself or herself. Now we're getting a little closer. The experiencer, according to the ancient rishis, the fundamental nature of the experiencer is non-dual. That's the only other possibility, right? So we've already gotten rid of the object called non-duality. We're left with the experiencer, the subject. So if we are going to give the benefit of the doubt to the ancient rishis, that non-duality must be a property of the subject, of the experiencer, and the experiencer is the one listening to these words. That's not so complicated. Who is the experiencer? You, the one aware of my words and my ideas. Notice how I phrase that. I'm not referring to the body sitting in your chair. I'm not referring to the prana, the life force that keeps your body awake for at least for some time. Meditation in the evening is a little bit dicey, as they say. And we'll do the best we can. So when I say the experiencer, I'm referring to you, the awareful being. You, the conscious being. Not the body, not all this other stuff, just in very simple terms. You, the conscious being, the awareful observer of whatever's happening right now. So, going back to what the ancient rishis said, they said that observer, that consciousness, that awareness, which is your essential nature, we use the word Atma for that essential nature, and we use the word Chaitanya or Chit for consciousness. So Chaitanya Atma is a term often found in texts, that conscious true self. Chaitanya Atma, according to the ancient rishis, is non-dual. Now, that's a statement that we have to verify. In many other classes of a topic we love to discuss is how the teachings of Vedanta are not a belief system. When the ancient rishis discovered that your true nature as consciousness happens to be non-dual, and they taught that not as something to believe. In fact, if you believe that consciousness is non-dual, what do you get out of that? I mean, that's a challenging question. It's a belief. If you believe in God, believe in Ishvara, that opens a door to a prayer life. That opens a door to prayer, to a relationship with the Supreme Being. If you believe in the doctrine of karma, which is also a belief system, that gives you some tools, very helpful, practical tools, to help navigate the complexities of your life. Very helpful. If you believe that consciousness is non-dual, it changes nothing. Nothing at all. In fact, to believe in that consciousness is non-dual is exactly like believing that E equals mc squared. Do you believe it? I think so. I mean, I don't think any of us are smart enough to refute Professor Einstein, who used to live down the road in Princeton. So you believe it. We can't derive the equation, but you accept it. You accept it as being true without proof. Why? You trust Einstein.
Well, the thing is, though, is that for me, to trust something, for me, it's easily to trust something that doesn't affect me at all, versus to trust something that will affect me. Now, at the same time, I'm not saying that just believe or to trust anything, but you could say, "Oh yeah, I saw a space shuttle land." Okay, I mean, is it believable? Sure. Do I trust that you saw that? Why not? I don't see why you'd lie. Even if you did lie, it would change nothing in my life. But I wonder if that's what he's trying to point out. But anyways, so when I trust or believe in something, it's a little bit more easily to believe, or not necessarily trust, but to believe, especially if it within reason, and it doesn't affect my life. Because whether I believe it or not doesn't change anything. But for example, I'm trying to think of a decent example, but let's just say, I'm walking and all of a sudden some guy comes, "Hey man, did you see that space shuttle that crashed in the middle of this highway?" I'm like, well, that's interesting. Is it believable that a space shuttle could crash? Yes. Is it believable that a space shuttle could crash in that highway? Let's just pretend like there is a spaceport. That's fairly common. Is it possible that one could have crashed there? Sure. And the thing is, though, is that this time it will affect me. As in, that's the highway that I take to go home. It's like, well, now I don't necessarily believe I'm 100%, but I'm like, well, this will affect me, so I need to verify. Because it's going to let me know whether I take that highway and say that he lied and I can take that highway, or if it's telling the truth, then I need a detour. So at that point, when it does affect my life, I go and verify. So that's actually a really good example. So basically, if it doesn't affect my life, whether I believe it or not, doesn't really matter. But when it does start affecting my life, or should it affect my life in the future, that's when I start to fact check stuff, because it does matter at that point. So again, the fact that a space shuttle crashed somewhere where it's completely in a different country, Sure. Could I believe it happened? Absolutely. It's plausible. Absolutely. It has happened before, and wouldn't doubt it to happen again. It's not out of the ordinary. It's out of the ordinary in the sense that there's space shuttles, but just to say that space shuttles can crash. You know, accidents do happen. But in terms of living my life, it changes nothing. Whether it crashed or landed perfectly changes nothing in my life. But if it crashes at a highway that I'm going to take to go home, that does change something in my life. So therefore, I have to verify it. I have to say, ooh, if that's true, that I need to take a different path. I need to make sure it's not lying. So I go check the news and whatnot. It's not to say that you shouldn't fact check anything, but going around fact checking things that won't affect you sounds more like a hobby. Hey, if you want to know the truth about everything, nothing's stopping you. But at the same time, there's not really going to affect you. Again, under the assumption that there's no way it will affect you at all, because again, completely different state, completely different country, something that you're not interested in anyway, and something that has happened before and will happen again. So it's not really anything necessarily major. Obviously, you care for the people in that accident, but outside of that, it's not going to really affect your life unless it's the one that crashed in that highway that you take home. So I hope that's a pretty decent example of how my mind works. In terms of whenever someone tells me something, is it going to affect me? No. Sure. Could I believe in it? Sure. Is it practical and sounds within reason? It does. So therefore I can believe it. It's not to say that I say that as a fact, but it's something that I can believe. Um, that again, like I said, if it affects my life, then I will have to fact check that. Let's continue.
And all the great scientists who have come afterwards. But here's the difference. If you accept non-duality as being true based on the authority of the ancient rishis, isn't that the same thing as believing in E equals mc squared? Does belief in E equals mc squared change your life in any way at all? Do you get abundant energy? After all, you have lots of mass. And if you multiply that by c squared, you should have a lot of energy. You get the point. It's not a matter of belief. The ancient rishis discovered it. It's a personal discovery, and the teachings they gave us are like a roadmap to help us discover what they discovered. Belief in non-duality, belief in consciousness being non-dual, is not helpful at all. To discover that your consciousness, the consciousness by which you know what's happening right now, to discover that that consciousness is non-dual. And further, to verify that truth in meditation. Notice I didn't say you experience non-duality in meditation, but I will certainly say meditation is an opportunity to verify that fact. How? You can verify it not by experiencing it, but it can be verified. How? We said already, consciousness, according to the ancient rishis, is non-dual. Consciousness is the very content, the essence of your experience right now. Experience is based on consciousness. Is your experience right now non-dual? Certainly not. Look around us. I mean, the world is full of duality, and that's what we experience all the time. But there are times when the experience of duality goes away. The most common example
Deep
of
sleep?
the absence of duality in your experience is deep sleep. Dreamless sleep. In dreamless sleep, first of all, I'm presuming that you've studied enough Vedanta to know that you are as conscious in deep sleep as you are now.
Real quick with that one though, it's really strange because I know, at least I say I know. I believe they say in REM sleep, rapid eye movement, which is supposedly your deep sleep. That's when you dream. So I hope that I don't know if they mean the same thing as in again the scientists who say deep sleep is when you deep sleep is your REM sleep. Your REM sleep is your rapid eye movement, and that's when you start to dream because that's when you're in your deepest sleep. But I don't know if the deep sleep here in the Vedanta and the deep sleep in the sciences are the same thing. I've never not heard any guru or swami say that they're the exact same thing. They both. I haven't watched the science video in a long while, but I do know, at least as far as I remember. Let me say not know, but as far as I remember, that again, REM sleep is deep sleep because that's when you dream. That's when your memory, your brain starts to put things in long term memory, from short term to long term memory. Um, so I don't know if those two are the same thing. At the same time, mind you, I've heard also scientists say that um, you dream at least 2 to 3 times every day, every night, every sleep, every deep sleep maybe. Every time you sleep, that's what they say. That's what they say every time you sleep. So I'm assuming a normal 8 hour sleep where you do have REM sleep. Now you get at least 2 to 3 dreams, and it's just the fact that whether you remember them or not. And that's the interesting thing. As a matter of fact, I don't know whether it was today when I woke up or yesterday. I had a dream that felt very real and it was very continuous. Like I think I wake up throughout the night. I think I'm getting old. Anyway, so I'll leave it at that. And then when I go back to sleep, I somehow continue that dream, or at least that's the way it felt. This dream in particular, I don't know why, felt like every time I woke up, and then when I went back to sleep, I woke up for a reason, had to go do something. I do that 2 to 3 times a night, maybe six. Anyways, um, it seems like it continued every time I went to bed. Not every single time I went to bed. Let me just say, like the times that I do remember it, it seems like it continued. Now I don't know whether it was just one dream and it felt like multiple dreams, or was that multiple times that when I went back to bed, whether it be the second time I went back to the bed or the third time I went back to bed, that the dream continued on. But anyways, to get back with this one, went off topic. But yes, I don't know if it means REM sleep, and REM sleep and deep sleep are the same in here, and the fact that it says deep sleep is the one where you don't have dreams, but scientists say that you do have 2 to 3 dreams every time, generally speaking, when you go to sleep. Not naps, mind you, probably, I'm not sure, but I think they generally say when you have your normal sleep, your 8 hour sleep. Because I think in some of those moments you'll have REM sleep. You'll get into this deep REM sleep. Sometimes you get knocked out of it and then get back into it. I'm guessing again, not a dream scientist here, but hope I'm kind of curious about that. Like I would love to ask him. It's like this deep sleep that I know Swami Sarvapriyananda, I know Swami Tadatmananda, especially now, Sadhguru, Lakani maybe? I'm not sure. But anyways, they do talk about this deep sleep, dreamless deep sleep. I do wonder if it's meant to be the REM sleep as well. If the deep sleep here and the deep sleep in the scientific term are the same. I have a feeling it's not, but at the same time I'm feeling it is, because I'm wondering if you do have this deep REM sleep without dreaming. I don't know for sure.
If you have not understood that properly, you need some remedial work. You need to study some more Vedanta and understand that properly, that your mind goes away in deep sleep, not consciousness. Consciousness remains utterly the same, even when your mind enters into that state of dreamless sleep.
I won't say your mind goes away. Your mind kicks into auto gear. Obviously, you're breathing. Your mind, yeah, I think your mind is, breathing for you. Your body, you only you use 100% of your brain according to scientists, but only a small amount of it though. Like a lot of it's automatic. I'm assuming, I don't know exactly 100% of what the brain does. Obviously, controls your body temperature, which you don't really regulate. It's like, okay, warm up. I guess I have to jog. Heat up, baby, heat up, or like cool down, or sweat, or well, hunger. Actually, that's the stomach. They say there's a second mind there in terms of your microbiomes. Outside of that, anyways, like regulate your blood pressure, your heartbeat, probably to a certain degree. There's a lot of things that your brain does automatically, and when you're sleeping, there's a lot of things that it automates. We're not actively trying to put short-term memory into long-term memory, so our brain is active during our deep sleep. As a matter of fact, that's what scientists say. That's where our like I said, short-term memory goes to long-term memory. So it's not that it's gone. It's and this is the question I've had too. It's like, why do sometimes we remember our dreams, and sometimes, like scientists say, we have 2 to 3 dreams every night, but we don't always remember it. Is it being intertwined with the short to long term memory? And that's how we get our dreams, is the fact that our whatever our short term memory has is being stored to long term, and every so often we are conscious of that. Not conscious of it, should I say, we're always conscious of it, but those certain moments of it gets captured into memory. And that's why when we wake up, we're like, oh my gosh, I remember my dream because it's been caught in memory. Again, I don't know. I've always wondered, why do we remember some dreams and not others? The only thing that makes sense to me is some of those dreams get caught into memory. Obviously, it'd have to be in order for us to remember something, because to remember something, we have to have memory of it. We have both short and long term, and during the deep sleep, REM sleep, or whatever sleep, we are short term is going to long term. And sometimes I even heard some scientists say that I believe it reinforces some of our long term memories. So the when we can recollect it quicker, we can remember it more vividly. So I guess during those times when we're sleeping, we're aware of some of the memories that we have, and it gets re-recorded somehow. I don't know. I don't know about that part, about the dream part. I don't know whether it's re-recorded, whether it's strengthening the memory or anything. I'm curious about that.
So it's a good example of the absence of the experience of duality. Is it proper to look, and here, one more minute of logic. In deep sleep, you don't experience duality. Can we then conclude that in deep sleep you do experience non-duality? Do you see the flaw in that logic? Just because you don't experience something doesn't mean you do experience the opposite. What a silly argument. So, what is going on in deep sleep? It is consciousness in the absence of the experience of duality. Often it's described as consciousness without an object. We're most commonly, we're all very familiar with consciousness in the presence of objects.
Interesting. So that's essentially what he's saying, where you cannot experience it because you just you just know about the deep sleep. Just because we obviously we go to sleep and then we wake up, and sometime between there's no recollection of it, because it seems like we don't experience it, because if we experience it, we remember it. Got a new tablet, so I guess I need to put that on mute. I don't know what that was about. Sorry. That was unexpected. Yeah, I have no idea what that was about. Anyways, but yeah, interesting. So basically, non-duality is the lack of memory, it seems. It's pure experience of the very moment with no memory whatsoever. Which is what deep sleep is, because we have no memory of it. At least as far as I'm trying to connect here. So, hey, correct me if I'm wrong for sure. But this is what it seems like.
Mostly mental objects? Objects in our mind, thoughts, sensations, emotions, all of this mental stuff, mental objects called vrittis. All those vrittis are objects of which you are aware. You're conscious of all these objects. In deep sleep, they go away. What is present in deep sleep is consciousness in the absence of duality. Here's now 30 more seconds of logic. If consciousness had the property of duality, that property of duality would be present in deep sleep, would it not? Suggesting that in deep sleep, you might have an experience of duality. Like, whoa, I'm really deeply asleep. Yeah, but you don't have that experience. You don't have any experience, consciousness without an object. And what I've just hinted at is what the ancient rishis described, and that is the consciousness that remains in deep sleep is non-dual. There it is. The consciousness which remains in deep sleep is non-dual. Now, a little bit of Vedanta, we have to stay on our meditation track here, so I won't go very far.
So real quick, so that's the thing though, is that again, if the scientist is true in their statement that we have 2 to 3 dreams every night, but we just don't remember it, but we do have them, then are we experiencing that without realizing? I'm trying to kind of link it up to what I was saying here, because he's saying, from my understanding, is that essentially it's almost like experience without memory. Because again, under the assumption that these dream scientists are correct, that we have 2 to 3 dreams every night, we just don't remember some of them. The ones that we do experience, the dreams that we have that we don't remember, is an experience without memory. Because it's just that moment. It's a momentary thing. It's experience and it's gone. The very moment that you see it, it's there. The very moment it's gone, it's no longer there. So kind of like if all I can ever do look forward all the time, and so when this, oh, you see, here's the pen. So if I'm the only thing I can do is look forward. So the only thing I experience is whatever's in front of me. So when it's in front of me, I experience it. The second that it moves away from in front of me, I no longer can experience it. So that's the only time I ever experienced that. Outside of that, I've never experienced it ever again, or have a memory of it. The only thing I ever have a memory of, which I would not, it would be whatever's. It's a bit of a complicated example there, but essentially, I don't have any memory of anything. All I can ever do is experience the now, and that's it. It's kind of like the dreams that we have. Maybe we do experience those dreams, but it's never stored in memory. Again, I'm not 100% sure on this one, obviously, but it's mere questions in my thoughts on the deep sleep, and the sure fact that scientists say that we have 2 to 3 dreams every night, but we don't always remember all of them. As a matter of fact, most nights we sleep, we don't seem to have dreams. But again, if scientists are telling the truth in the fact that we do have 2 to 3 dreams every night, then clearly we are experiencing something, but we just have no memory of it. We just don't remember it. And that's what I remember them saying. I can't remember what video it was, is that we just don't remember it. So, and this goes to say the fact that deep sleep is non-dual. Ancient research show the consciousness that remains. There it is. Consciousness, which is deep sleep, is non-dual. Okay. Um, it's this is just my thought process. It's kind of hard to organize it again, considering that I am merely reacting to this video, not seeing it, and as my thoughts come up, I say it. I would love to talk to him about that and see if he can make sense of what I'm trying to say here. It's the fact that there is something to experience in a deep sleep, and it's the dreams that we have that we do not remember. So, and I guess the question goes to the fact that if we dream and remember it, that is not that is duality right there, because there's obviously the subject and the object. The subject is you experiencing the dream. But what about the times that that we have dreams but don't remember it? Is there a subject and object there? And I guess that goes to the fact that if it is duality, that we can experience something without ever remembering it, without ever knowing it happened, could it be the same as deep sleep? Where deep sleep, we we assume we experience nothing because we have no memory of it. Hopefully that makes more sense of what I've been trying to say. It's the fact that the memory is the big key word here. If we don't remember something if we don't remember it happening, is it non-duality then? Is that how we're explaining non-duality? Because obviously if we remember the dream, clearly it's a duality. There's the subject experiencing the dream, which is the object. But if we have the subject experiencing the dream, that's the object, but have no memory of it, is that what might be happening? The non-duality right there, because there's no. I mean, obviously there's a subject and an object, but because there's no memory of it, are we mistaking that for non-duality? I hope that makes sense. It's confusing, and I wouldn't blame you. My brain works weird sometimes.
Is non-dual. What about the consciousness present right now? This is another big topic in Vedanta, and that is you have to discover that consciousness doesn't change. There are no states of consciousness. Your mind has lots of states. Your mind is constantly changing. The consciousness which reveals the changing conditions of your mind, that consciousness is unchanging. So I'm just hinting at a Vedantic topic that we won't discuss, and that is, if consciousness is non-dual in deep sleep, consciousness is non-dual right now. Of course, there's a lot of duality present in your experience because of your mind. Anyway, and that's what we're going to deal with in meditation. There's only one problem. Another common question, Swamiji, what is the difference between deep sleep and samadhi? And the simple answer, I learned this from my guru. he kind of always said this a little tongue-in-cheek. And the difference between deep sleep and samadhi is, in deep sleep, you're sleeping. In samadhi, you're awake. If you're asleep in samadhi, that's not samadhi. You drifted off as you're meditating, as many people do that. Okay. So, what we want to accomplish, and this is to introduce tonight's meditation, let me get rid of this little pop-up. Okay, that way I can see that it's working right. What we want to accomplish in tonight's meditation is this. First of all, stay awake. Secondly, perform a meditation technique that can make your mind as silent as it is in deep sleep, just for 1 second. Only 1 second. We're not talking about becoming master meditators overnight, but a moment of silence. In that moment of silence, it's like deep sleep, in the sense that the non-dual consciousness is present in that moment of silence, and nothing else. just like in deep sleep. The difference, of course, is in that moment of silence, you're not asleep, you're awake. And that moment of silence is enough to verify what the ancient rishis taught, that your consciousness is non-dual. You do not experience non-duality. In that moment of silence, you confirm, through your absence of experience of any duality, you confirm what the ancient rishis taught. Okay.
I was going to ask, it's like, how do you do that though? Because I was going to say, I think I had a brief moment like that some time ago from one of my first videos of reacting to these types of videos, where I had a momentary like that quick of what he said. I believe, again, I don't know for sure, where it just where it, how do I say it? It felt like the deep sleep. Again, it was so fast, so quick. But anyways, I guess the question is how do you know you just didn't go to sleep for that brief moment? I guess this is kind of the problem. It says without memory of this, how do you know it happened? How do you know that you did do it? And I guess this goes back to the initial question of the dreams and stuff, where if you have no memory, how do you know? How do you know that you're in the non-dual state and not just in deep sleep? Because, like they've said, it's essentially deep sleep is essentially that state. So how do you know that when you're meditating that you didn't just go to sleep, or maybe in that I don't know how else you would experience it. I mean, obviously meditation, but again, like I said, what if you did just fall asleep? Or how do you know that you're in that state? Obviously, the lack of memory is a good evidence of that, I believe, because that's how I'm assuming is confirming it, where you have this dreamless state that you're in, but it's clearly, obviously, is missing the memory portion of it. That's how you know, how you confirm that you've gotten into that state. Let me know if I'm wrong.
This is our meditation, and before we begin the meditation, I need to check in with you and see how we're doing here. How many, we call this an advanced meditation session, so we assume that you are regular meditators, but I need a little feedback. So I'll just ask you to raise your hands. How many of you have experienced a moment, just a moment of silence in meditation? How many of you?
Okay, I wasn't meditating at that time. I think I was paying attention to the screen, but I was staring. I can't. Oh yeah, I remember. It was I remember the moment. It was this guru that was telling the audience to just kind of focus on something, and I did, and for just again, like a snap of, like quicker than a snap of the finger, that it happened. Again, I don't know for sure. I have no way of knowing for sure, because obviously I don't know what that is. So to me say that, yep, that's exactly it, I have no idea. It's like if you drink Coke and you like, okay, blindly drink, oh, this one's Coke, because I know the experience, I know what Coke tastes like. I have no idea what this feels like. Deep sleep seems like it, but I'm not too sure, because I can't remember the experience, so it's kind of hard. I don't know if it could be similar but different. But anyways, I didn't do it through meditation, but I did during just by, I guess, kind of focusing. Is what I did. I just focused and tried to think of nothing, and it just happened like in a brief half a millisecond or something.
Okay, that's helpful. How many of last week, last month in our previous advanced meditation session, I asked you to perform a technique that you find particularly helpful to quiet your mind. Instead of making everyone do the same technique, I find it's very helpful that you choose the technique that works best for you, and then you do that during our meditation. How many of you found it, and we did that last week for about 10 minutes, of those of you who were present, not last week, last month, of those of you who were in a session, how many of you found it difficult to make your mind fairly quiet, practicing your favorite technique? You're okay with that. A couple of you. Okay. This is not the time for a big, what do they call it, cheerleading session to encourage you to practice more meditation. Let me just suggest very briefly, I have practiced meditation every day for roughly 45 years. I can't tell you how much that practice has blessed me. So the message is, don't wait. Get on the track and practice at least once a day, every day, at a time that suits you. Let it be an important part of your daily schedule, and that it will bless you every day, and it'll make you in much better shape for our meditation tonight. Okay, what we're going to do is we'll start in just a couple of minutes. We'll go through our usual steps of preparation, and then I'll invite you to practice the technique you find most helpful to quiet and focus your mind.
Okay, I'm going to actually pause it right there. So nice. Very interesting. Interesting. It's just really interesting. I never thought about non-duality as something that you cannot experience. If that is true, though, in terms of the deep sleep, which again Swami Sarvarpananda says that too. So it's something that you. I wonder if Swami says that. Swami Sarvarpananda. I don't remember if he says that you cannot experience it. It's really weird, but it's something that you have to do, which I think is pretty confusing to a Western's mind, or at least, or the mind of people who don't follow this, because when you do something, you're expected to experience it, but doing this is the lack of experience, which is contradictory in a sense. Obviously, deep sleep is not something that we control. We just go to sleep and hope we get the deep sleep so we can get some rest. But it's not something that we actively try to do. We actively try to get the deep sleep by going to sleep early or making our bed comfortable, but whether we get to the deep sleep or not is kind of out of our hands. So it's very interesting to say that deep sleep is something that you don't experience, since for one, we don't necessarily have control over it, at least for those who can't get to it in terms of meditation and stuff, those who knew. But once I'm kind of curious as to what is that like to be able to do that and not sleep, a deep sleep like state where you're awake. That doesn't, again, very counterintuitive, just because, again, if you look at deep sleep, that seems to be no memory of that experience. So if you're sitting here in a deep sleep like state, would you have no memory of what's going on while you're in that deep sleep state? Like, right, if I'm in it right now, I would have no memory of this until I get out of that, and then my memory will start back up. So right before it happens until when I get out of it, this section here, no recollection. I'm assuming. Because your true self has no memory, has no emotions, has no feelings, no thoughts, no action, nothing. It's merely just the experience. And that's why there's no memory. Anyways, very, very complicated stuff in this video for sure, at least from my opinion. So anyways, if you like my content, please consider subscribing. If you can answer those questions, that'd be great. If you like my content, please consider subscribing. Thumbs up the sound down below. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next vid.